Sophia was 15 years old, and she lived in a quiet, peaceful town where everyone knew each other. Her house was small but comfortable, with a tiny garden full of flowers that her mother loved to care for. Sophia had a curious mind and loved learning about new things. She was especially fascinated by airplanes. She loved everything about them: the way they soared in the sky, the sounds of the engines, and the intricate designs that allowed such large machines to fly. Her father worked as an airport technician, checking planes and making sure they were safe to fly. Because of this, Sophia often spent her afternoons at the small airfield near her town. It had a long runway, a hangar, and a few private planes that took off for short trips. On this particular morning, the sky was gray, heavy with clouds that promised rain later in the day. The air smelled faintly of fuel and fresh grass, a smell Sophia had come to associate with airplanes and adventure. She had asked her father if she could help him check one of the private planes before it took off. Her father had hesitated at first, warning her to be careful near the engines and moving parts, but Sophia was persistent. She had watched him work for years and felt confident that she could help. Today, she would get the chance to prove herself. The plane they were inspecting was sleek, white, and looked almost new. Its wings gleamed in the dim morning light, and the engine appeared polished and well maintained. A crew of 3 technicians was already working around it, checking the fuel levels, tire pressure, and control panels. Sophia carried her small toolkit, keeping it close as she walked carefully around the plane. She loved these moments. She liked being near airplanes because they seemed alive to her, as if they had personalities and stories of their own. As Sophia moved closer to the engine, her eyes caught something unusual. Among the clean, shiny parts, she noticed a small metal tool lodged in the machinery. It was something that shouldn't have been there: a tiny wrench, left accidentally or, as she realized with a sudden chill, maybe even placed on purpose. Sophia's heart began to beat faster. She remembered what her father had always told her: never ignore something that doesn't look right. Even a small mistake can become a big problem. Sophia knew she had to act quickly. She ran toward the nearest adult and shouted, "Sir! Stop! Your plane was sabotaged." Her voice was loud and clear, cutting through the usual sounds of the airfield. The technicians froze, unsure what she meant. The plane's pilot, a man in his 40s with dark sunglasses and a crisp uniform, turned sharply toward her. His expression was one of confusion and surprise. The billionaire entrepreneur Richard Langley was already inside the cockpit, preparing for takeoff. He had built a massive fortune through technology companies, and he was known for his disciplined routines and strict schedules. Today, he was in a hurry to reach another city for an important business meeting. His mind was full of plans, negotiations, and strategy. He was used to trusting the professionals around him to keep everything safe. But now, he had heard the voice of a young girl shouting a warning that none of the adults had noticed. Richard stepped out of the cockpit, his brow furrowed. He looked at Sophia and then at the plane, sensing the urgency in her voice. "What do you mean, sabotage?" he asked, trying to keep calm but clearly startled. Sophia didn't hesitate. She pointed to the engine and explained what she had seen: a small tool lodged in a part that could cause the engine to fail. She spoke quickly but clearly, knowing that every second mattered. "It could be dangerous," she said. "The plane shouldn't take off like this." The technicians rushed over and examined the engine. Sophia's father had followed her, his face pale with worry. He had taught Sophia well, but seeing his daughter stand so confidently in front of a billionaire and a powerful crew was both proud and nerve-wracking. The small wrench was indeed lodged in a critical part of the engine. If the plane had taken off, it could have caused the engine to fail mid-flight. The consequences could have been disastrous, not just for Richard Langley but for anyone on board and on the ground. Richard's face shifted from disbelief to concern. He realized that Sophia's warning had been urgent and accurate. He immediately called for the plane to be grounded. The crew began a careful inspection, removing the tool and checking the engine for any damage. Sophia watched closely, feeling a mixture of fear and relief. She had done her best, but now she had to wait and hope that her instincts were correct. The tension at the airfield was palpable. Other staff members gathered, whispering among themselves about the brave girl who had stopped the plane. Some were skeptical, wondering if it was just a lucky guess. But as the inspection continued and the engine was found to have been at serious risk, everyone realized that Sophia's sharp eyes and quick thinking had prevented a disaster. Richard Langley, still shaken, looked at Sophia with admiration. He had faced countless challenges in his life, but he had never experienced a moment like this one where a young girl's observation had saved him and potentially dozens of others. He approached her and said, "Thank you. You didn't just notice something small. You probably saved lives today." Sophia felt a rush of pride and nervousness. She had never thought of herself as a hero, only as someone paying attention. Her father put a hand on her shoulder, smiling quietly. He whispered, "You did well, Sophia. I'm proud of you." Sophia felt warmth spread through her chest. She had acted quickly, and it had made a difference. She realized that courage wasn't just about being fearless, it was about noticing what others might miss and having the bravery to speak up. By the time the plane was safely inspected and cleared, the rain had started to fall, small drops dotting the tarmac and the wings of the aircraft. Richard Langley, still grateful and impressed, asked Sophia and her father to stay for a moment. He wanted to understand more about how she had noticed the tool. Sophia explained that she had always been taught to watch carefully, to double-check details, and to trust her instincts. She had never imagined that this lesson would lead to such a dramatic moment. The staff began to see Sophia in a new light. She was no longer just a curious teenager, she was someone who had acted with intelligence and bravery under pressure. Richard Langley arranged for additional safety checks on all planes that day, ensuring that what had happened could never happen again. He wanted to make sure that Sophia's warning would not be forgotten and that her actions would inspire others to pay attention and act responsibly. As Sophia and her father left the airfield that day, she couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. The memory of the small tool, the rush of fear, and the sound of her own voice shouting the warning stayed in her mind. She felt a new sense of confidence and purpose. She realized that even a young person could make a big difference in the world, and that paying attention and acting with courage could change the course of events in ways she had never imagined. Sophia went to bed that night thinking about the plane, the engine, and the small wrench that could have caused so much harm. She thought about Richard Langley, a man she had only seen on the news before, who was now personally grateful to her. She understood that this was just the beginning of something bigger. Her bravery had been noticed, and she had learned an important lesson: sometimes, doing the right thing required speaking up, even when others might doubt you. That night, as rain pattered softly against her window, Sophia drifted into sleep with a mixture of exhaustion and excitement. She had faced a real challenge and had succeeded. She had saved lives with her eyes, her mind, and her voice. And deep inside, she felt that her life was about to change in ways she could not yet see, all because she had trusted herself and shouted the words that no one else dared to say. The morning after the incident at the airfield, Sophia woke up early. She could not stop thinking about what had happened. Her small bedroom felt brighter than usual, even though it was still early and the sun had barely risen. Her parents had already left for work, and the house was quiet. Sophia sat by the window, looking out at the garden, replaying the moment in her mind when she had spotted the tiny tool in the engine. She felt proud but also nervous. She knew that what she did had been serious, and she wondered how many people actually realized the danger she had prevented. Meanwhile, Richard Langley could not forget the young girl who had stopped the plane. In his penthouse office, overlooking the city, he stared at the documents on his desk but could not focus. He kept thinking about Sophia's clear eyes, her sharp mind, and the voice that had cut through the chaos at the airfield. He had seen many people in his life, business partners, staff, assistants, but no one had ever noticed something so small and important in such a short time. He felt a mix of gratitude and curiosity. He wanted to meet her again, to thank her personally, and to understand how she had developed such a keen sense of observation. By mid-morning, Richard's assistant called Sophia's parents. "Mr. Langley would like to meet Sophia and her parents at his office," she said politely. "He wants to thank her for her bravery." Sophia's father was surprised and a little nervous. "It's a very busy place, and he is a very important man," he said to Sophia. But Sophia's eyes lit up. "I want to go, Dad," she said. "I want to meet him and learn more about airplanes." Her father hesitated but eventually agreed, proud that his daughter's actions had been recognized in such an important way. When they arrived at Richard Langley's office building, Sophia felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The building was enormous, taller than anything she had seen before, with glass walls reflecting the sunlight. Inside, the lobby was grand, with marble floors and modern art hanging on the walls. Richard himself greeted them, standing near the elevator. He looked different in person, taller, calm, and kind, not just a face she had seen on the news. "Welcome," he said, shaking Sophia's hand warmly. "I wanted to meet the person who saved my life." Sophia felt her cheeks warm. She had never imagined someone like Richard Langley would say something like that to her. Richard led Sophia and her parents to a quiet conference room overlooking the city. The room was filled with sunlight and had a large glass table in the center. They all sat down, and Richard began asking Sophia questions about the incident at the airfield. "How did you notice the tool?" he asked, his voice calm but curious. Sophia explained everything: how she had learned from her father to pay attention to details, how she had seen the small wrench, and how she had shouted the warning to stop the plane. Richard listened carefully, nodding and occasionally asking more questions. "That was very brave," he said. "Most people would have ignored it or assumed someone else would notice. But you didn't. You acted immediately. That is rare, even in adults." Sophia felt proud, but she also felt a little overwhelmed. She had never thought of herself as brave. She had simply followed her instincts and what she had learned from her father. After the discussion, Richard suggested they take a walk around the office and hangar. Sophia's father walked beside them, quietly impressed by how Richard treated Sophia with respect. As they moved through the building, Richard explained more about his work and the airplanes he owned. He showed her models of different planes, some designed for speed, others for long-distance travel. Sophia listened intently, asking questions and learning quickly. Her excitement grew with every new detail. When they arrived at the hangar, Sophia's eyes widened. It was enormous, filled with sleek private planes, shiny helicopters, and even a small experimental aircraft. Richard explained the safety features of each, how they were maintained, and how every detail mattered for safe flight. Sophia was amazed by the complexity and the care that went into every machine. She realized that airplanes were not just machines, they were works of art and engineering, requiring respect, knowledge, and careful attention. Richard asked Sophia if she would like to see a plane up close and learn some of the basics of inspection. Her eyes lit up. "Yes, please," she exclaimed. Richard led her to a smaller private jet. He showed her the different parts of the engine, explaining why each was important. Sophia listened carefully, absorbing every word, and asked intelligent questions that impressed Richard. He smiled, thinking that this girl was not only observant but also curious and smart. During the inspection, Richard shared stories of his travels, explaining how paying attention to small details had helped him in his business and personal life. He told her that noticing things others might miss could prevent disasters, save lives, and even create opportunities. Sophia nodded, understanding that the lesson applied to more than just airplanes, it applied to life. She realized that her quick thinking and attention to detail could be valuable in many situations. After the inspection, Richard invited Sophia and her parents to have lunch in the company cafeteria. The cafeteria was modern and bright, filled with employees who smiled politely at them. During lunch, Richard talked to Sophia about her future. He asked her what she wanted to do when she grew up. Sophia said she loved airplanes and wanted to learn as much as she could about them. She wanted to become a pilot or an engineer, someone who could make airplanes safe and efficient. Richard listened carefully and encouraged her. He told her that her skills and bravery were rare, and that she had a bright future if she continued to work hard and follow her passions. After lunch, Richard gave Sophia a small notebook. "Take this," he said. "Write down everything you learn, everything you observe, and all the questions you have. Keep it safe. It may help you in the future." Sophia held the notebook carefully, feeling honored. She understood that this was more than a gift, it was a sign that Richard believed in her and wanted to support her growth. Before leaving, Richard arranged something special. He told Sophia that she could attend a private aviation program he sponsored, where young enthusiasts could learn more about airplanes, engines, and flight safety. Sophia could hardly believe it. She had never dreamed that her curiosity and a single moment of courage could open such an opportunity. Her father thanked Richard, his voice filled with gratitude and pride. Sophia felt a deep sense of happiness and excitement. As they left the office building, Sophia's mind was full of ideas and inspiration. She felt a new confidence in herself. She had acted quickly, spoken up, and been noticed by someone important. But more than that, she had learned that bravery and intelligence could create real opportunities. She realized that life could change in a single moment if someone was willing to pay attention and act. Over the next few days, Sophia kept thinking about her meeting with Richard Langley. She talked with her friends at school about airplanes and safety, sharing her experiences and what she had learned. Many of her friends were amazed, and some were a little jealous of the opportunities she had received. But Sophia stayed humble, knowing that her actions were important not because of recognition, but because she had helped prevent a disaster. Sophia also started spending more time at the airfield, practicing what she had learned from Richard. She studied engines, checked fuel systems, and asked her father questions about safety procedures. Each day, her skills improved, and her confidence grew. She felt proud that she could understand something complex and important at such a young age. She began to dream bigger, imagining herself flying planes, inspecting engines, and even teaching others about safety in aviation. One evening, as Sophia wrote in the notebook Richard had given her, she reflected on everything that had happened. She remembered the morning on the tarmac, the moment she had shouted the warning, and the tension in the air as everyone realized the danger. She realized that her voice had made a difference, that her attention to detail had saved lives, and that her courage had been recognized by someone she had always admired from afar. She understood that her life had changed forever. Sophia went to bed that night feeling both excited and determined. She knew that the world was full of challenges and opportunities, and that she had the ability to face them. She also knew that bravery was not about taking risks for attention, it was about noticing what others might miss and acting when it truly mattered. As she drifted to sleep, she dreamed of airplanes, flight, and the possibilities that lay ahead. She knew that this was only the beginning of her journey, and that her courage and curiosity would continue to guide her in ways she could not yet imagine. Sophia could hardly believe what was happening. After her first visit to Richard Langley's office and hangar, she had been invited to return for a more hands-on experience. Today was her second visit, and she felt like she was walking into a world she had only dreamed of before. Her backpack was full of pencils, notepads, and a small camera she had brought to document everything she learned. She wanted to remember every detail: the engines, the cockpit controls, and even the smell of the hangar, which somehow smelled like oil, fuel, and adventure all at once. Her father walked beside her as they entered the tall glass building. Remember to stay focused, he said. You've been given an amazing opportunity. Pay attention, and learn as much as you can. Sophia nodded, though she could hardly keep her excitement in check. She had already learned so much from Richard Langley during her first visit, and now she was ready to dive even deeper into the world of aviation. When they reached the hangar, Richard was waiting. He smiled warmly as he saw Sophia. "I'm glad you're here," he said. "Today, we're going to do something special. You're going to learn how to perform a full pre-flight inspection on a private jet. It's the same inspection that professional pilots do every day." Sophia's eyes widened. She had seen the checklist before, but actually performing it herself was something entirely different. Richard guided Sophia to a sleek jet with silver wings that glimmered in the sunlight coming through the large hangar doors. He showed her the exterior first: the tires, the wings, and the engines. He explained each part in detail, using simple words so she could understand. Sophia listened intently, nodding and taking notes in her small notebook. She asked questions about why certain parts needed extra care and what could happen if something was missed. Richard answered carefully, impressed by her curiosity and attention to detail. As Sophia examined the tires, she noticed a small scratch on one of them. She pointed it out to Richard, who came over to inspect. "Good eye," he said. "Most people would have walked past it. You're noticing things that really matter. That could save a lot of trouble later." Sophia felt a surge of pride. She realized that her skills were improving, and that her careful observation was becoming more than just a habit, it was becoming a real talent. Next, Richard taught Sophia about the engines. He opened one of the panels and explained how the turbines worked, how fuel flowed, and how the engine produced the incredible power needed for flight. Sophia leaned closer, fascinated. She asked questions about how the engine could fail, how pilots prepared for emergencies, and how small mistakes could become dangerous. Richard answered each question thoroughly, explaining concepts with simple examples. Sophia scribbled notes quickly, trying to remember everything. After the engine inspection, Richard took Sophia inside the cockpit. He showed her the instruments, the levers, and the controls. It was overwhelming at first. The dashboard was filled with buttons, screens, and dials, but Richard explained each one step by step. Sophia learned about navigation, communication systems, and emergency procedures. She even practiced checking the instruments, following Richard's instructions carefully. She realized that flying a plane was not just about controlling it, it was about understanding every part, preparing for every possible situation, and making smart decisions. During their time in the cockpit, Richard shared stories from his travels. He told Sophia about the first plane he had ever flown in, the challenges he had faced while building his company, and the mistakes he had learned from over the years. Sophia listened eagerly, fascinated by the mix of adventure and lessons in responsibility. She understood that Richard's success was not just about money, it was about careful planning, attention to detail, and a willingness to act quickly when needed. After the cockpit, Richard led Sophia to the hangar's maintenance area. Here, technicians worked on engines, checked hydraulics, and performed repairs. Sophia watched closely as they used specialized tools to ensure every plane was safe to fly. Richard encouraged her to try some of the simpler tasks, like checking fuel levels and inspecting small parts for damage. Sophia was careful, following instructions to the letter. She felt proud as Richard praised her, saying, "You're learning quickly. Most people don't pay this much attention even after years of experience." While they were in the maintenance area, Richard received a call from one of his business partners. He excused himself briefly, and Sophia and her father explored the hangar a little. Sophia noticed the care with which each plane was handled. Every part seemed to have a purpose, and every worker seemed focused on safety. She realized that the hangar was like a small city, with everyone playing an important role. She felt lucky to be allowed inside this world and inspired to learn as much as possible. When Richard returned, he suggested that Sophia try her first real pre-flight checklist under his supervision. She felt nervous but excited. With his guidance, she went step by step, checking every detail of the jet. She inspected the landing gear, examined the control surfaces, verified the fuel, and even checked the emergency equipment. Richard watched closely, giving advice when necessary but letting Sophia do most of the work herself. By the end of the checklist, Sophia felt accomplished. She had done something real, something important, and she realized that her skills were growing every day. After the inspection, Richard congratulated her. "You did an excellent job," he said. "I can see that you have a natural talent for aviation. You're careful, smart, and willing to learn. These are the qualities of someone who can do great things." Sophia beamed with pride. She had never imagined that she could perform a real inspection on a private jet and do it correctly. She felt a sense of confidence that she had never experienced before. Richard then introduced Sophia to a few of the technicians who worked with him regularly. He explained how teamwork was essential in aviation, and how every person's role mattered. Sophia asked questions about their work, learning about the different careers in aviation beyond piloting. She realized that there were many ways to contribute to safety and success in this field, and she felt excited about the possibilities. Before leaving the hangar that afternoon, Richard gave Sophia another gift, a small model airplane. "This is for you," he said. "Keep it as a reminder that paying attention, learning, and being brave can open doors you never imagined." Sophia held the model carefully. She knew it was more than a toy, it was a symbol of her journey, her courage, and the new world she was discovering. On the way home, Sophia's father asked her how she felt. "I feel like I'm part of something bigger," she said. "I never knew how much goes into keeping a plane safe. And I feel like I can actually do it. I feel like I can make a difference." Her father smiled, proud of her. He knew that Sophia was growing not just in knowledge but in character. She was learning the importance of responsibility, courage, and careful attention to detail. That evening, Sophia sat at her desk and began writing in her notebook. She recorded everything she had learned that day, the parts of the jet, the pre-flight checklist, the lessons Richard had shared, and even her own thoughts about courage and responsibility. She wanted to remember every detail so she could use it in the future. She realized that this notebook was becoming more than a diary, it was a tool for learning, a record of her growth, and a reminder of the day her life began to change. As she wrote, Sophia thought about the moment she had shouted at the airfield, warning that the plane was sabotaged. She realized that her instincts had saved lives, and that day had opened a door to a world she had only dreamed about. She felt proud but also determined. She wanted to continue learning, to grow her skills, and to use her knowledge to help others. She understood that courage and intelligence were a powerful combination, and she wanted to develop both. Before going to bed, Sophia looked at the small model airplane Richard had given her. She imagined herself flying high above the clouds, inspecting planes, and discovering new horizons. She felt a sense of excitement and purpose that she had never felt before. She knew that this was only the beginning of her journey, and that with curiosity, courage, and determination, she could achieve remarkable things. That night, as Sophia fell asleep, she dreamed of airplanes, engines, and adventure. She dreamed of flying safely through the sky, of helping others, and of making a difference in the world. She knew that her journey had just begun, and that each day would bring new lessons, challenges, and opportunities. And deep inside, she felt ready to face whatever came next, confident that she had the skills, the courage, and the determination to succeed. The next morning, Sophia woke up with a mixture of excitement and nerves. She had received a call from Richard Langley late the night before, inviting her for a very special experience. Today, she would not only observe but actually be part of a real flight preparation. Sophia felt her heart race as she imagined herself walking through the hangar, checking the plane, and seeing the world from the cockpit. She quickly got dressed, packed her notebook, and left home with her father. When they arrived at the hangar, Richard was waiting, as usual, with a calm and encouraging smile. "Good morning, Sophia," he said warmly. "Today will be a bit more challenging, but I believe you're ready." Sophia's excitement grew, but she also felt a flicker of nervousness. She knew that real responsibility was about to land on her shoulders, and she didn't want to make a mistake. Richard led her to a large jet, bigger than the one she had inspected before. The jet's metallic body gleamed in the sunlight, reflecting the hangar's towering walls. Sophia's father followed close behind, silently watching his daughter's enthusiasm. Richard explained that today's task would be more complex. "We're going to do a full pre-flight inspection, and then you'll assist in a simulated emergency drill. This will test your observation skills, your attention to detail, and your ability to act calmly under pressure." Sophia felt a thrill run through her. A simulated emergency? That sounded like a real adventure. She followed Richard closely as he showed her the checklist. It was longer and more detailed than the last one. She would need to check the tires, wings, engines, fuel systems, lights, control surfaces, and even emergency equipment. Sophia took a deep breath and began, determined to do everything correctly. Step by step, she worked through the checklist. She inspected the tires carefully, ensuring they were fully inflated and free from cracks. She examined the wings, looking for dents or scratches that could cause problems. She checked the engines, verified fluid levels, and even ran her fingers along the metal to feel for irregularities. Richard watched quietly, only giving guidance when necessary. He seemed impressed by her focus and care. As she moved to the cockpit, Sophia felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. The array of buttons, screens, and levers looked even more complicated today. Richard patiently explained each instrument again, emphasizing their importance. He instructed her to practice reading the instruments, checking communication systems, and simulating navigation procedures. Sophia followed his directions carefully, repeating each step until she felt confident. Once the inspection was complete, Richard smiled. "Excellent work, Sophia. You're ready for the next part, the emergency drill." He led her to a smaller area of the hangar, where a flight simulator was set up. The simulator looked like the cockpit of a real jet, with seats, controls, and screens showing a virtual sky. Sophia's eyes widened. She had never imagined she would get to use a simulator like this. Richard explained the scenario. "Imagine the plane is ready for takeoff, and something unexpected happens. A warning light flashes, signaling a possible engine problem. Your task is to follow the checklist, communicate clearly, and take the correct actions to ensure safety." Sophia nodded, her heart pounding. She knew that this was not just practice, it was a test of her skills, her focus, and her ability to stay calm under pressure. The drill began. The simulator came alive, with the sounds of engines starting and instruments lighting up. Suddenly, a red warning light flashed. Sophia's hands trembled slightly as she remembered Richard's instructions. She quickly reached for the checklist and began following each step. She communicated with the crew, giving clear instructions as she identified the simulated problem. Her voice was steady, even as adrenaline surged through her. The simulator screen showed a virtual sky, with clouds passing by and other planes in the distance. Sophia imagined herself in a real plane, responsible for the safety of everyone on board. She felt a sense of focus she had never experienced before. Every decision mattered. Every action counted. Richard watched silently, letting her take the lead, occasionally nodding in approval. As the drill progressed, Sophia faced several challenges. The simulator simulated engine fluctuations, communication errors, and even a sudden change in weather. Sophia adapted quickly, using the skills she had learned from Richard. She checked instruments, confirmed procedures, and maintained clear communication. Her mind worked like a machine, analyzing each situation, solving problems, and staying calm. Finally, the drill reached its climax. A simulated engine failure occurred, requiring immediate action. Sophia remembered everything Richard had taught her. She calmly followed the emergency procedure, communicated clearly, and successfully stabilized the plane in the simulation. The virtual sky cleared, and the plane landed safely. Sophia exhaled, a mixture of relief and pride washing over her. She had done it. She had faced a simulated emergency and succeeded. Richard smiled broadly. Sophia, that was incredible. You handled every challenge calmly and correctly. I'm very impressed. Most people with years of experience would struggle with this, but you stayed focused and acted responsibly. You have a talent for aviation that is rare at your age. Sophia's chest swelled with pride. She realized that her instincts, courage, and careful attention to detail had carried her through the challenge. Her father hugged her tightly. I'm so proud of you, he said. You stayed calm under pressure, you followed instructions, and you never gave up. You've proven that you can do anything you set your mind to. Sophia smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. She knew that this experience had not only tested her skills but also strengthened her confidence and determination. After the drill, Richard invited Sophia to a special area of the hangar, a room where retired pilots and engineers displayed models of planes, trophies, and awards. He explained the history of aviation, the challenges pilots faced in the past, and how technology had improved safety and performance. Sophia listened eagerly, fascinated by the stories of courage, innovation, and problem-solving. She realized that aviation was not just about machines, it was about people, teamwork, and the ability to make smart decisions under pressure. As the day progressed, Richard gave Sophia more responsibilities. She helped organize safety equipment, checked maintenance logs, and even assisted in planning a flight route for a real pilot. Sophia's confidence grew with each task. She realized that she was not just observing anymore, she was contributing, learning, and becoming part of a world she had once only dreamed about. Before leaving, Richard pulled Sophia aside. You've shown great courage and intelligence, he said. I have one more surprise for you. Tomorrow, you will be able to experience a short flight in a real jet, under careful supervision. This will be your first real flight, and it will give you a chance to see everything from above the clouds. Sophia's eyes widened. She could hardly believe it. The thought of flying in a real jet made her heart race with excitement and anticipation. That evening, Sophia went home and wrote in her notebook. She documented every step of the day: the inspection, the simulator drill, the challenges she faced, and how she had responded. She reflected on her feelings, her growth, and the lessons she had learned. She realized that courage was not just about being brave, it was about staying calm, thinking clearly, and acting responsibly when it mattered most. As Sophia prepared for bed, she looked at the small model airplane Richard had given her. She imagined herself flying in a real plane, soaring above the clouds, and applying everything she had learned. She felt a mix of excitement, determination, and a little nervousness. She knew that tomorrow's flight would be a true test, and she wanted to be ready. That night, Sophia dreamed of the skies. She imagined engines humming, clouds rushing past, and the thrill of seeing the world from above. She felt a deep sense of purpose and excitement. She understood that her journey was only beginning, and that with courage, intelligence, and careful attention, she could face challenges, learn new skills, and achieve remarkable things. Sophia also thought about the moment she had saved Richard Langley's life. That one act of bravery had opened doors she never imagined. It had given her the opportunity to learn, explore, and grow in ways she had never thought possible. She felt grateful, inspired, and ready for the next adventure. Before falling asleep completely, Sophia whispered to herself, "Tomorrow, I fly." And with that, she drifted into dreams filled with endless skies, engines roaring, and the promise of new discoveries. She knew that she was ready to face whatever challenges awaited her, and that her courage, intelligence, and determination would guide her every step of the way. The morning sun shone brightly as Sophia and her father arrived at the hangar. Today was the day she had been waiting for, her first real flight in a jet. Sophia could hardly contain her excitement. Her heart raced as she walked beside Richard Langley, who greeted her with his usual calm smile. "Are you ready, Sophia?" he asked. She nodded enthusiastically, feeling a mixture of nerves and excitement. Richard explained the plan for the flight. "You will be in the co-pilot seat, and I will guide you through every step. You will see how a real jet takes off, flies, and lands safely. Remember, the most important things are focus, observation, and calm thinking. Trust your training, and you will do just fine." Sophia took a deep breath and repeated the instructions in her mind. She felt prepared, thanks to all the lessons, inspections, and the simulator drills from the past days. As they approached the jet, Sophia felt a rush of awe. The plane was larger than she had imagined, sleek and shining in the sunlight. She carefully climbed the steps into the cockpit, her fingers brushing against the cold metal. The co-pilot seat felt comfortable yet important. Every button, lever, and screen seemed to call for attention, and Sophia felt a sense of responsibility unlike anything she had experienced before. Richard guided her through the pre-flight checklist once more. Sophia followed each step carefully, checking the instruments, confirming communication systems, and verifying safety equipment. Her mind worked clearly and calmly, remembering everything she had learned. Richard nodded approvingly. "Excellent, Sophia. You are ready for takeoff." The engines roared to life, vibrating through the floor and walls of the hangar. Sophia felt the thrill of power and control, a mixture of excitement and nervousness rushing through her. Richard instructed her to observe the instruments and communicate any concerns. Sophia focused, noting every detail, feeling more confident with each passing second. As the jet taxied down the runway, Sophia held her breath. She felt the force of acceleration as the plane picked up speed. Richard's voice came through clearly in her headset. "Sophia, this is the moment. Stay calm and observe everything. You are part of this experience." The plane lifted off smoothly, and Sophia's heart soared along with it. She looked out the window, watching the ground fall away. The hangar, the airport, and the city became smaller as they climbed higher into the sky. The feeling of flying was unlike anything Sophia had imagined. The clouds floated gently around them, white and fluffy against the blue sky. She saw rivers shining in the sunlight, roads winding like ribbons, and towns that looked like tiny toy models. Sophia felt a mix of wonder, awe, and pride. She was not just observing anymore, she was part of the flight, actively participating and learning in real time. Richard instructed her on basic controls, teaching her how to read the instruments, adjust the throttle, and maintain steady flight. Sophia listened carefully, following his guidance. She realized that flying was not only about control but also about awareness. Every movement mattered, every decision had a consequence, and staying focused was key. Sophia felt a deep sense of respect for pilots, understanding that their skills combined knowledge, instinct, and calm thinking. As they flew higher, Richard simulated small challenges to test Sophia's reaction. He introduced slight turbulence, adjustments in wind direction, and minor instrument alerts. Sophia remained calm, recalling her lessons from the simulator. She followed instructions, observed the instruments, and communicated clearly. Each successful response built her confidence, showing her that courage and focus could guide her through challenges. Sophia glanced at Richard, noticing his calm demeanor and steady hands. She realized that confidence came not from avoiding fear, but from facing it with knowledge and preparation. She felt proud of how far she had come from noticing a strange noise on the plane months ago to now flying a real jet. The journey had taught her patience, courage, and the importance of paying attention to details. After some time, Richard pointed out landmarks below them. "See that town, Sophia? And that river? Flying gives you a perspective on the world that you can't get from the ground. It teaches observation, appreciation, and responsibility." Sophia smiled, feeling a sense of wonder and understanding. She realized that her adventure had opened her eyes to new possibilities, showing her the beauty of the world from above. As the flight continued, Richard encouraged Sophia to try minor adjustments on the controls under his supervision. She hesitated at first, then slowly moved the throttle and rudder, feeling the jet respond smoothly to her touch. She experienced the thrill of control, the power of her actions, and the responsibility that came with them. Richard praised her carefully. "Very good, Sophia. You are learning quickly and handling yourself with maturity. Flying is about respect for the machine, the environment, and the people you share it with." Sophia realized that this experience was not just about flying. It was about growth, courage, and learning to trust herself. She remembered the day she had shouted to warn Richard about the sabotage. That moment of bravery had led to everything: the training, the trust, the adventure. Sophia felt proud and grateful, understanding that courage and quick thinking could create opportunities beyond imagination. After flying over the countryside, Richard guided Sophia through a gentle descent. He explained the importance of careful observation, communication, and precise control during landing. Sophia concentrated, monitoring the instruments and observing the ground approaching. The plane glided smoothly, and she followed Richard's instructions step by step. Her hands were steady, her mind focused, and her heart filled with pride. Finally, the jet touched down safely on the runway. Sophia felt a rush of exhilaration and relief. She had flown a real plane, faced challenges, and learned in a way that few people ever could. Richard smiled, clearly proud. "Sophia, that was excellent. You stayed calm, focused, and responsible. You handled the flight perfectly. I'm very impressed with your courage and skills." Sophia's chest swelled with pride. She felt accomplished, confident, and ready for new challenges. Back in the hangar, Richard invited Sophia to sit with him for a final discussion. He explained the lessons of the flight: preparation, observation, communication, and calm decision-making. Sophia listened carefully, taking mental notes. She understood that these lessons went beyond aviation; they applied to life itself. Courage, focus, and careful thinking could guide anyone through challenges, big or small. Richard then surprised her with a small gift: a model of the jet they had flown, signed with a personal note. For Sophia, a reminder that courage and curiosity can open doors to amazing experiences. Keep learning, stay brave, and continue to explore the world. Sophia's eyes filled with tears of happiness. She hugged the model tightly, feeling the weight of her journey, the lessons she had learned, and the adventures still to come. Her father hugged her tightly, his pride evident. "You have grown so much, Sophia. Today, you faced real challenges, and you succeeded. You have shown courage, intelligence, and responsibility. I am proud of you beyond words." Sophia smiled, feeling warmth and love. She realized that her journey was not only about adventure but also about building character, confidence, and a sense of purpose. Before leaving the hangar, Richard spoke to both Sophia and her father. "Remember, Sophia's courage saved my life once. But more importantly, her curiosity, intelligence, and determination are what will guide her through life. Opportunities come to those who are prepared, attentive, and brave. Sophia has shown all these qualities in abundance." Sophia felt a mixture of pride, gratitude, and humility. She realized that her actions, big and small, had impact and that she had the power to make a difference in the world. As they drove home, Sophia reflected on everything she had experienced. The journey had been extraordinary, from discovering a potential sabotage to learning aviation, facing a simulator emergency, and finally flying a real jet. She understood the importance of courage, preparation, and the willingness to take responsibility. She also realized that one brave act could open doors to a lifetime of learning and adventure. That evening, Sophia wrote in her notebook, documenting every detail of the day: the takeoff, the flight, the challenges, and the landing. She reflected on her feelings, the lessons she had learned, and the people who had guided her along the way. She felt gratitude for Richard's mentorship, her father's support, and her own courage. She also felt inspired to continue exploring, learning, and facing new challenges with confidence. Before going to sleep, Sophia looked at the model jet on her desk. It was more than a toy, it was a symbol of courage, growth, and opportunity. She whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning. I am ready for whatever comes next." With that thought, she drifted into sleep, dreaming of skies, adventures, and endless possibilities. Sophia's journey had taught her that courage was not just about shouting warnings in moments of danger. It was about preparation, observation, calm thinking, and the willingness to face challenges with determination. Her bravery had saved a life, opened doors, and given her experiences she could have never imagined. She had proven to herself that with focus, courage, and heart, she could achieve extraordinary things. In the days and months that followed, Sophia continued to explore aviation, learning more about planes, instruments, and safety procedures. She also applied the lessons she had learned in other areas of her life: school, friendships, and personal goals. She grew more confident, responsible, and curious, understanding that courage and determination were keys to unlocking a world of possibilities. And so, Sophia's story became one of bravery, growth, and adventure, a story of a young girl who, with courage, focus, and heart, turned a moment of danger into a lifetime of opportunity. She had flown not only in the skies but also into a future full of promise, knowledge, and endless horizons.